have some new faces as well. And yeah, we are ready for this session for today's webinar. And it is a small effort by our youths to try help parents as well as kids take a more informed decision. Nothing is right or wrong here, or you might agree, you might not agree. That's perfectly fine. But we tried to put out the conversation, the discussion we wanted to start and go on, so that it can help some people, some parents, some kids. So our topic is back to school, in person or online. For some, it might be a very easy decision to make. For others, depending on how their kids are, it would be a difficult decision to take. But whatever it is, we will go through the benefits and risks of online or virtual or in-person options while we are thinking of going back to school. So we cannot deny the fact that education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world, as Nelson Mandela says. And but now is the time where the problem has come, that how to get that education. So it said, he who opens a school door closes a prison. So we are trying to see how well we can open our doors, open the door to education through the best possible ways that we think would be suitable for everyone. With that, we begin our session, and we have with us wonderful youths here. We have our very well-known sensible Shridula. She is a high school graduate and a very sensible girl, and she will be the moderator today. And we have the first timer. She's going to 10th grade, and she is Shreya. She describes herself to be funny, and she is. And then we have Krithi, who is also a high school graduate, and she loves to describe her as a straightforward girl. And we have Siri and Pranav. Siri, a 9th grader, and Pranav, a 10th grader. Both very quiet kids, both brother and sister. And we are extremely happy. And thank you, kids. Thank you, youths, for joining in today. Over to you, Shridula.
Yeah, thank you, Auntie. Hi, everyone. With the very unusual times that we are living through right now, all of us are being forced to adapt to this new normal, which is this new catchphrase that is surrounding us everywhere we go. The COVID-19 pandemic is affecting all aspects of our lives, from the way we socialize and eat out to our work and school. So today, we will be exploring the various factors that we should be weighing when deciding between online and in-person learning for this coming fall. So today, we'll start off by introducing our wonderful panelists. Then we have a question for you audience members. We want to hear your concerns going into school year this fall. What are you most worried about? After that, we'll compare and contrast virtual and in-person learning. Then we have another poll to hear your school decision for this fall. And then after we share with you our decisions, we'll open up the floor for any questions that you might have. Let's get started. First, our panelists. Hi, everyone. My name is Shridula, and I will be a freshman at the University of Michigan this fall. Today, we wanted to let you guys get to know us a little bit better, so we included 3 of our hobbies on the left side of the screen below our photos. So I like to garden, I like to play with my dog, and I couldn't find a running icon, so I put a soccer ball, but I also like to run. We also wanted to share with you how much we are in favor of in-person and online schooling. So to the right of the screen, you will see 2 icons with scales next to them. The first icon is indicating how much we like in-person learning, and the second is how much we prefer virtual learning. I ranked them equally because I don't have a preference. In fact, I didn't have a decision to make. All of my classes are online. There is no option for me to go in person. So while I am going to go to school virtually this fall, I don't have a preference between the two. So that's a little bit about me. Next, we are joined today by the newest member of our team, Shreya.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm 14 years old, and in the fall, I'll be a 10th grader in Issaquah High School. I like to read and draw and write, and my preference is in-person learning.
Thank you, Shreya. Next, we have Krithi.
Hi, I'm Krithi, and I'm 17. In the fall, I'll be going to Michigan State University, and I'll be majoring in computer science. So personally, my preference is online schooling, but I'm not completely opposed to in-person schooling. That's why I have 2 dots, because it does have its benefits. In my free time, I like to sing, I like to sew, I like to paint, and I like cooking, but there wasn't a cooking emoji, so I like coffee, so that works too.
Thank you, Krithi. Today, we're also joined by Pranav.
My name is Pranav, and I'm 15 years old, and I'll be going to Lambert High School, and I'm a 10th grader right now, and I like basketball and singing, and my future, I like computer science, and my preference is online learning.
Thank you, Pranav. We're also joined today by Siri.
Hi, my name is Siri, and I'm 13 years old, and I'm also going to Lambert High School. And what I like to do in my free time is sing, dance, or knit. And my future is in healthcare, and my preference is online too.
Thank you to Siri and the rest of our wonderful panelists for being here and sharing their knowledge with us. So before we jump into weighing the pros and cons of virtual and in-person learning, we have a question for you that you can see on the screen right here. What are you most worried about as you decide between in-person and virtual learning? What about the upcoming school year worries you the most? So to share your answer with us, there are 3 options you can see on your screen. There is a QR code. You can scan the code with your phone. On iPhones, the QR code can be found in the camera. And on Samsung phones, if you swipe down from the very top in the toolbar, QR code scanner is one of the options. You can also just type in the web URL that you see there. It's in the middle of the screen. Or if you prefer to text, that might be an easy option as well. You can type SRIK028 to the number 22333. And we will leave the slide up for a minute before we show the results of what you guys would like to share with us. So are you most worried about the health of your student? Are you worried that the teaching mode won't be the same? Are you worried about costs? Maybe you might be a college-going student and you might be worried about the cost. Whatever you're worried about, please do share with us, and we would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Just a quick, if Shridula can put in, if you are joined in from Zoom, you can even put your ideas in the comment section, chat section as well. And those who have joined from YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, you can put it in the comment section as well. Thank you.
So we have some responses coming in. Yep. There, let me show you guys your answers. So yeah, we can see health, safety, cost, school-going students, the teaching mode. Let's see if we get any more responses as we keep this up here. And you can also see how you can share your answer along the top as well. Those are options also listed there. Yeah, we see online, prior, want safety, COVID. COVID is definitely a big concern, of course. Worried, yep, definitely. Prior safety, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and we see more results coming in. Yep. So these are all definitely very valid concerns, and it looks like the top of the concerns include health, going to the cost of going to school, and of course, safety as well. And so please do stay tuned because we will be covering all of those today in our discussions. So as we start off, let's talk about virtual learning. We all have some experience with virtual learning after schools went online earlier this year, but today, Krithi will dive a little bit deeper into the positive aspects of virtual learning, as well as why she and her family chose to go completely online for her schooling this year.
Thank you. So as with any mode of learning, online learning has its own set of pros. So number one, with online learning, you can learn at your own pace. So that's adaptive to each individual student. So you can take your time learning if you need the time, or you can move forward and you don't have to worry about the rest of the class falling behind or you falling behind. It also gives you the flexibility of what time you want to study. So for example, I'm more productive in like the afternoon time, but some people work better at night, some people work better at morning. So you have the flexibility to be more effective. You can also pick and choose what tasks you want to complete first, so it gives you that flexibility. Another pro is that you can have time to focus on your extracurriculars and any skills you wanted to pick up for a long time or any personal projects that you've been putting aside. And it really allows you to become a well-rounded person. And I feel like you become more happy with the way you spend your time. If you're like me and you're going to college in the fall, a huge asset is that you'd be saving money. For example, I'm going to be staying online and I'd be saving tons of money on room and board, on dining. And one of my friends, she also chose to go online and she did some of her school already over the summer and she didn't have to transport to her college. So she saves gas money, she saves dorm costs, she saves food costs, and she found a bunch of her textbooks free online. Learning online also gives you the opportunity to become very well-rounded as a character, and because you learn to manage time and be productive and be more efficient. And obviously the biggest pro of all is that you have less exposure to Corona. So personally, like I said earlier, I am going to stay home online because all of my classes are online. And chances are, if you're going to college, most of your classes are online too, if not all of them. And I decided to stay home because, like I said earlier, it saves me tons of money. And I also know that I can, learn to manage my time better because I know personally I'm not the best at time management, but I know that I will develop on that. And I know that I'm not going to be depriving myself of seeing people because I will go see people, like obviously not tons of people like at a time, but I will be seeing groups of people, so I don't have to worry about that. And my parents also agreed with me because they were mostly worried about Corona. But if I had an option, or if some of my classes were like in person, they wouldn't have been as worried because it's not like I'm going to be spending all my time with all the exposures. So if there's like a hybrid option, they would have liked that better for me and my brother, who was also going to be staying online.
Great, thank you, Krithi. We really especially liked listening to how you and your parents all came to a collective decision together. That's very insightful, thank you. So now we have Shreya, who's going to be sharing a little bit more about the complications that we have to consider with virtual learning. Shreya?
Yeah, so virtual learning has its pros, but it also has its cons. For one con is that it's mundane. It's the same routine every day. Nothing really changes. You just get assignments from your teachers and you complete them. Without your teachers, it's not really interesting because your teachers find ways to do things so that you have more of a fun time when you're learning. You don't have any projects either or access to school materials, which can be useful because you might not have things at home. And if you're not interested in what you're learning, it might not get into your brain. Also, you need time management skills. It's not good if you procrastinate when you're doing virtual learning because that can affect you really badly. You can get lower grades because of that, and it'll affect your future too, because if you can't manage your time properly, you won't be able to do it in the future either unless you learn. You can also get slow responses from your teachers. For example, if you send them an email, you won't get a reply immediately because your teacher, chances are, isn't online the same time as you. And so you can't get your questions answered in real time. Also, it's difficult to adjust for everybody, but mostly for younger children too. Their brains are still changing, and it's really hard for them to adapt to this virtual learning thing and sit still and do things that they're told to do at home rather than at school.
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. Especially going off of that point that you made, that it's a very big adjustment for everyone. Like you mentioned, for young kids, it's very difficult for them to understand this new normal. Why do we have to maintain social distancing? Why do we have to wear masks? Why can't we go to school in person? It can be very difficult for them to understand that. And then for older kids, of course, the decreased socialization and connection time with the friends can definitely lead to feelings of isolation. Of course, for teachers, it's very hard for them to connect with students. For example, in language classes, where every student learns languages very differently, it can be difficult for them to connect with students using all of those different types of teaching modes and all of those different types of methods of learning that they might have been able to use in person. And then, of course, for parents, parents will need to support their kids' educations at home while working. So that's a lot of juggling, almost like glass balls. So those are all very good points that you bring up, Shreya. So what are you going to be doing this fall, and how did you and your parents reach this decision together?
In the fall, I will be doing online learning, but it's not my decision. It's something that the school took a choice on. If it were my decision, I would choose in-person learning, personally because I would learn better like that. I would try to be careful with the COVID and everything, but I learn better in person with like the teachers talking directly to me instead of online. My parents don't agree with me though. They believe that they're kind of scared of the disease, rightfully so. And so they think it's better for me and my brother to do online learning instead.
Yeah, thank you to Shreya and Krithi for those amazing detailed discussions. Next, we have Pranav and Siri, who will be sharing more with us about in-person learning, as well as what they will be doing this fall. First, let's hear from Pranav.
So the alternative to virtual learning is in-person learning. As with anything, this coin also has two sides to it. First, though, the positive aspects. First, social life and connecting with friends. Whether the kids are in kindergarten or about to enter college, friends are an extremely important aspect of school. Young children socialize and learn valuable communication, team building, and sharing skills. The social connections we form support older students through the ups and downs of the difficult coursework. Independence. For college students, moving on campus can help them become more independent. Time to wash their laundry, clean their own rooms, and stay on top of their to-do list all by themselves. Extracurriculars. Many schools have not yet finalized their plans for extracurriculars and student organizations. So the limbo is compelling many students to opt for in-person learning. However, the policies do vary from school to school. And my personal experience is like, I'm gonna be doing online because I still don't think it's safe. And I think I have a exposure to the COVID because like it's around the school environment and there's a lot of like, yeah. So that's what I think.
Yeah, thank you, Pranav. And now Siri, who will be sharing with us about the risks of in-person learning.
So, while in-person learning does have some positive aspects, it obviously poses certain risks. The most obvious of those risks is to your health and safety. COVID cases are still on the rise in many communities, and a general non-adherence to public health guidelines are causing many parents to feel on the edge about their kids' health and safety, especially in relation to going to school. In particular, young kids like preschoolers and kindergartners may have a difficult time maintaining social distancing and wearing masks. Second, the nature of play school is very high contact. They play with a shared set of toys and with each other very closely. Third, these are very uncertain times, and the scientific communities are learning more about COVID as we go. So it's very hard for kids to totally understand this new normal. And personally, for me, I am doing online school. And the reason for this is because in my state, the cases are rising really quickly. And my parents and I decided that it would be it's not safe enough for me to go to school. So yeah, that's my decision.
Yeah, thank you to both Siri and Pranav. So now that we weighed the pros and cons of online and in-person learning, and you've heard from us what type of schooling we will be doing this fall, we want to hear from you once more. Are you opting for virtual or in-person learning this fall? Again, there will be 3 options on your screen. You can see a QR code, a web link, or you can chat. There's no text option. You can use the chat on the Zoom, or if you're watching through YouTube or Facebook, please leave your answer in the comment section or the live stream chat as well. And while you guys are doing that, I do want to emphasize that not everyone actually has a choice to make here. Like you heard from the experiences of me and Shreya, we didn't have a choice to make. The school districts and the classes had already been completely online, so we just had to go with that. So I want to emphasize that not everyone might have that chance to make a decision. But we already have some responses coming in from the panelists from the audience members on Zoom. I see some virtual learning, and we will also put up the poll results on the screen in just a moment. And we will also, so please do share your answer with us. You can see the URL at the top of the screen. It's pollev.com, and you can share your answer with us there. We'll give you guys just a few more moments.
So in the chat, there is somebody who wrote, Karthik, that some classes are distance learning, distance class. Is it in-person distance or?
Yeah, so they said that their distance classes
In-person.
are in-person. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, well, it looks like the majority of our audience members will be going online this fall. And so, yeah, that's very, whatever decision you might make, we have to understand that there will be some complications with that. So before we move on to talking about the tips and ways you can deal with those complications that might arise out of whichever mode of instruction you choose, it looks like Krithi has a few points for us to consider today.
Thank you, Sridhara. So there are some points before you make your final decision that you want to consider, because as with any decision, especially this decision at least, is very important because it's going to change the course of the next year, and it also is very unique to each family. So specific points that you should make sure you consider before you make your final decision is the amount of corona cases in your city. So is your city a hotspot for corona, or are the cases gradually going down? Another thing you want to consider, especially if you're going to college, is the financial stability of your household. So will you be able to support the room and board for the upcoming year, or would you rather have your child stay at home for financial reasons? Will your technology at your household be able to support the online learning? Because you need to know if you have enough devices for each student, for example, that can support the technology, or if you have the technology in general to access all the facets of what you might need for your online learning. Another thing you want to consider is the teaching style of your school. For example, I know that some younger kids have a more interactive based learning where they can show and tell, for example, for certain things that they want to share with other kids, so they get excited, they get involved. But some other places just, send videos out. And you need to know if the teaching style of the school, especially in an online manner, is pertaining and relevant to your child or yourself. And another thing you want to consider is the age of your student. An older kid, for example, might be able to go out and, maintain the social boundaries that you need during this pandemic time. But a younger kid doesn't know, personal bubbles. So the age of the student is also something you should really consider here.
Yes, thank you, Krithi. And those are all very good points that everyone should keep in mind when making their decision for this fall. So whichever mode of education you choose will be challenging this school year because of the rampant COVID-19 pandemic. So here are some tips that you can use to make it easier for you, whether you are a parent or a student. The first thing that I would recommend is to meet virtually with your friends at a regularly scheduled time, especially if you're learning virtually. It's really easy to start feeling isolated because of the decreased social connection. So what my friends and I did earlier this year in March was we started having a video call every Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Sometimes we had big news to share with each other, and other times we just chilled and had some chit chat. Either way, it feels very good to have that structure and to see my close friends and safely connect with them. The second thing we would recommend is to start a virtual study group. For example, again in March, when all schools went online, my friend created a study group with some of the students in her chemistry class. They met every Monday at 2 p.m., and this really helped them support one another through a difficult subject that was being taught completely online. The third thing, set a routine and stick to it as much as possible. You don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. like you would if school was in person, but wake up at the same time every day, eat healthy meals, build in time for schooling, hobbies, and working out, and sleep on time. You should definitely check out our webinar on teen quarantine schedules if you want more information on that. Now, this next one is something that we're all needing now more than ever, a designated workspace. A quiet, organized space to work will help us get in a productive mindset. The fifth one is to take regular breaks. For parents, it is so tough because they need to plan so much, work, and take care of their kids. Maybe the parents could take turns being in charge of their kids' education while they're in virtual schooling. Whatever you guys choose to do, though, taking breaks is an important aspect of being productive. And finally, if you're learning virtually, technical issues are very likely to get in the way. One thing that I always do when I see that my schedule is filled with virtual meetings is test my technology. I test my mic and video and make sure that everything is running fine. I try to schedule updates for the evening when I don't have as many meetings. And I make sure to enter meetings with my power cord handy. But if any technical issues still happen, just don't panic. Just let your instructor know in the chat, if you can, quickly fix the issue, and calmly rejoin the meeting or the class. So with that, we thank everyone who came today and to everyone who contributed to this. If any of the audience members have any questions, we'll be very happy to answer them. If you're watching through Zoom, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can leave your questions in the Q&A box or the chat box. If you're watching through YouTube or Facebook, you are more than welcome to leave your questions in the chats, in the live stream chats or the comment section. Thank you.
Thank you, Shridula. And it was a wonderful presentation, no doubt about it. But we have, as I see the attendee list, I see Nasi ji, please, if you can unmute and share your experience, or what your thoughts, your comments, your feedback, it would help all of us.
Hello, thank you, Jill and Jim. Hello, young people. I joined late due to my work pressures, but listened to the last about 20 minutes or so. Excellent points made by all. Well, I am an empty nester. My kids are grown up and out of the house, so I don't face this as a parent right now, but I kind of face it in my own work because I chose to work from home because of my family conditions, and consequently, I miss on the face-to-face interaction time with my colleagues, and it's kind of important to have that in a corporate environment. So I have to make an extra effort to stay in touch with some of the important colleagues that have an impact on my work and my projects. So another critical thing is managing your time better, and one has to constantly strive to do that. This recent experience reminds me of our time in middle school and high school, where we used to be given a set timetable, and when the clock strikes, math period is over, and say science period would start, so on and so forth. So pretty much I have to set a timetable like that for myself, so that I work on one task for half an hour, and whether it is finished or not, I have to move on to another task, because otherwise nothing gets done. So really some really good tactics and strategies came up for discussion. Really good presentation, enjoyed it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy ji. So we have some interesting, before we go hop on to the other questions, I see Prema Sim Jain, and he has been our guest speaker a couple of days back, and he texted me that a very good topic. I would definitely ask you, Asim, if you have any points, because you have young kids, what is your take on it? And if you can, we have kept the question answer session more so that we can have your, feedbacks, opinions also. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So for me, life is the highest priority thing than anything else, and living healthy is most important. So it's just some unprecedented time which is happening now, and probably in next 6 months things will be like, once the vaccine is there and everything will be all set, probably back to whatever it was. Now coming back to my kid, she is in fifth grade, so she is not too young and she is not that mature. But what we do is, I understand there are pros and cons in online schooling versus the collaborative learning. When you go there, you play with the kids and your mood is pretty stable. But when you feel isolated in home, sometimes you don't feel you need some sharing, some caring, some friends, some also gossiping and all that in person. So what we did is, we opted for online schooling, and we also got few other classes like dance class or whatever we could, being safe, and having the online version. So my kid also participates in dance class, like the dance performances, but that's online. So the formation is not there when you are in there, but that's fine for a year or 6 months. That's fine. And that is what my take is, that I'll continue with the basically online, and then just wait for a little while, maybe 6 months to an year, and then we'll love to get back in the collaborative in-person mode.
Thank you, Asim. Thank you so much. And we have another lady who joined. I don't see her right now. I see Smita Patil. She joined. Do you have any take or any feedback? Okay, if not, then there was one question. Shridula, I'll hand it over to you. There was one question by Kanti. I'm a student. I'll be starting 5th grade. Prefer school. I don't want to be bored at home. This is like a burning thing for many. So Shridula, over to you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. How do we not be bored at home, especially when we're so young? I totally understand. Do any of our panelists want to answer this question, or? Yeah, Krithi.
Okay, I feel like that one is very specific on the individual. So what are you interested in? Sometimes you'd like, maybe you're watching TV and you see someone do something and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. I want to try that. So, try it. You have the time now. So, order something online and try whatever you wanted to try for the longest time, because you finally have the time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you said if you've been wanting to try something for a long time, that now is a good time to do it. If there's anything that you've been wanting to learn for a long time, or if there's any hobby that you've been wanting to develop for a long time, but you never had the chance to do that, now is a good of a time as any to do that. If you also want, what you can do is kind of like we mentioned earlier, you can make like a schedule for yourself during the day. So set aside time for your academics and see how much free time you have left. And you can fill that time with any of your hobbies that you might have. Maybe if you like nature, you can schedule some time for like a walk every day outside. Or if you have any younger siblings, always setting aside some time to spend some time with them. Because you guys will all be at home now, it's a great time to get closer with your siblings as well. So those are some of our recommendations, but if anyone else has any recommendations, we would love to hear what you have to say as well.
Yeah, we are joined by Srishti. So Srishti, straight over to you. Your comments.
Hi, Auntie. No, the presentation was so good. I kind of joined a little late, but I liked how they flowed all together and the topics were super clear. I'd like to say that well, sometimes online classes can get boring, but I like how Krithi talked about saving up. So I think that was kind of my favorite part.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you have any other takes, or you thought, or it's now that you're doing the online class, something I remember you telling previously about the costs of books, and what other aspects that you find are positive?
Well, as pointed out, for me, again, personally, I find all these textbooks online that are just for free, and it's because it's online. But if the classes were to be in person, you would have to buy the books, which for college, especially, are super pricey. And I find it easier to not spend that much money for a book that I'll only use for 4 months. It's just easier to get something online for free, use it, and then never look at it again, and then save up on money. So that's a kind of good thing with online.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ridula. And yeah.
Sorry, I think Sri Krithi had one more point that she wanted to make. So back to you, Krithi.
Sorry. Thank you for that. But I had one more thing to add to the question. Especially since he's transitioning, I think he said from 5th grade to 6th grade. I think it's important to keep in touch with your friends from elementary school. For example, my brother is also doing the same thing, and he is going to a completely different middle school than most of his friends are going. So make sure you also schedule time in your day to call them, or maybe, I don't know what you're into, but maybe play a game online with them, because that's what my brother does. And make sure you don't lose touch with them, because you have the time to keep up those connections. For example, me, I finally have been in touch with one of my really old friends, and we've been FaceTiming pretty often, and it's pretty nice. So make sure you use your time to not be bored for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we have another question coming in from the YouTube live stream, and they're asking, also, we will be missing lots of extracurricular activities and clubs. How will we compensate for those? Your thoughts? Any of our panelists want to take this one? Let's see. Anyone want to take this? Okay. Yeah, I can answer it. That's correct. A lot of the extracurricular activities and clubs will be going on, will be missed. So the first thing I would suggest for this step 1 is check with your school's policy. Are they moving extracurricular activities online, or are they canceling them completely? So if they're online, definitely take advantage of that and go to all of those online meetings. But if they're canceled completely, then I would suggest using that time in some other way productively. I guess it depends on what you were using those extracurricular activities for in the first place. So for example, if the activity in question is, maybe you are a member of your school's I don't know, Build On Club, and you are a part of it because you want to volunteer for a charity organization, So if that one is completely canceled for the school year, maybe you can find another charity organization in your local area that you can volunteer for. For example, right now I'm volunteering for a couple of organizations, and those have always been online, so it's not a problem for me anyway. But yeah, so I would say definitely check in with your school, see what their policy is. Chances are they will be online, but if they're not, then you can find something that is in your local community that will keep you just as engaged and serve the same purpose. Does anyone have anything to add on to that? Yeah.
So again, it depends on like how old you are. So I know for college, I know there are going to be ways that the clubs are going to hold their meetings online. But if it's something like if you're like in high school or like younger and you're trying to do the club because you actually care for it, the club, then you could there are multiple websites where they have where people put in applications for volunteers, and you could easily gain a volunteer experience for whatever your interest is, because there's so many wide varieties of volunteering opportunities online.
Hi, this is Shristi. Can I just add on to that?
Yeah, please.
So extracurriculars include like sports as well, right? So I was just trying to say, like, some of the fields or football fields, it depends on which sport, but some of the tennis courts and football fields are actually open for like public use from schools right now. And I think it because what I do usually is I go to the Athens tennis court and then play a little bit of tennis, because I kind of miss being included in a sport. So I go to Athens, I play the tennis with my parents, and then I come back. So I think that's another extracurricular thing that you can do outside of school if they don't offer it.
Yeah, thank you, Srishti. We have another question on the YouTube, and it is they're asking, how do we keep young kids engaged for longer time periods with online classes? Would anyone like to answer this one? Krithi or Shreya? Okay, I'll give it a shot. So I think, yeah, the problem is especially pronounced with younger children. I totally understand that. And so the first thing I would say is, if possible, take regular breaks so that they're not like completely burnt out or wiped out. The second thing would be to see what the activities are. Maybe the parent can check in and see what the activities are that the teacher is giving the kids in their online classes. They can plan the supplies ahead, and the teachers and the parents can be in close communication, so that they are understanding what is expected of the kid, and the parent can support the kid through that. Also, maybe if both of the parents are working, I understand that will be especially a lot to juggle. So maybe the parents can split up the tasks or take turns supervising their kids' online schooling for that day. So that might also be a suggestion. But I know, yeah, Krithi.
Piggybacking off of that real quick, I agree, because sometimes it can get really monotonous if the same person is teaching the same content. So if you extend it into your household a little bit, if the kid is young enough, you can make it into like a game in your household to keep the kid engaged. And just switching up who teaches what. So if you want to reinforce something in your household, maybe have a sibling teach it one day and a different parent another day, just so that the kid feels like it's being tossed around in something new every day. Back to you.
Yeah, especially the idea of like the sibling popping in once in a while was a really good idea. I actually have a younger brother, so I like spending time with him a lot, and oftentimes we'll be like studying together or working together or something like that. So that's also a great way to increase the sibling bonding. So that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah, taking that, I would like to open this question for the parents joined in to ask, like, when both the parents are working, what are the takes? What are the shots you are taking? What are the ideas or to keep them engaged when you are having so many meetings during the day, to keep them engaged as well as I mean, definitely interesting, so that they are there mostly for the younger kids, I would say, not the older ones. So if you have, from any panelists, if you have any suggestions or what your parents are doing, you can share, and even it's open for the parents who are joined in. So they all want to keep it a secret and not share. So anything, Shridula, if I can ask you, like being, I'm not a parent, but I think, what was that? But I think rewards helps a lot. Absolutely, I agree to that too. Yeah, Karthik, thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, Shridula, if I can ask you, how do your parents, engage or ask you to, or your little brother?
Yeah, so my brother is actually, he's going to 10th grade now, so he's pretty self-sufficient. Actually, he's also really independent. But when we were younger, I really remember, especially when we were both very young, and both my parents work too. So I remember that they would take kind of turns engaging the both of us. So one day, like for some time, if my mom had a meeting, my dad would engage with us, or vice versa. The other thing is just the activities that we had in our free time. So growing up, neither of us had any phones. So a lot of our free time, if we needed to be engaged, went to time-consuming and intellectually rewarding activities like puzzles, reading books, things like that. So because our hobbies were in that kind of line or that kind of vein of reading books, doing puzzles, doing crosswords, things like that, it was easier for them to engage us by directing us towards those kinds of outlets. So I actually remember when I was younger, there was this author called Daisy Meadows, and she used to write these small books for little kids, and I used to race with her. So I used to see if I could finish reading her books before she released a new one, because she used to be really quick in releasing those. So that's kind of how we were engaged. Our parents would just direct us towards those hobbies that we had, or they would take turns engaging us when they both had meetings or had to work.
Wow, that's something, yeah, and you did it because you did not have the phone engagement, and now through the, virtual learning. But more, I mean, now that the school is, the everyday, this was, I think, what you were talking about when after school activities. But since school is right now virtual and people are opting for that, that's, I think, the engagement, keeping them, sitting in front of that computer, that's a challenge. But yeah, thank you for that suggestion. That's really a good one.
Sure. And yet, even when it comes to virtual schooling, like keeping the child in front of the computer, this is totally unprecedented. So I actually don't have any experience with that as a young kid. But this year, even, I was finishing up my 12th grade of high school. And even as a 17, 18-year-old, it was difficult for me to stay in front of my computer for so long. So I think, like Karthik suggested in the Q&A in the chat box on Zoom, rewards help. That doesn't necessarily mean bribing, but saying something like, if you sit through this class for just 30 minutes more, and if you finish all of your work for this class, then you can watch TV for 20 minutes. Or if you finish this class, if you sit through this lecture with your teacher for until it ends, which is in like 15 more minutes, then you can play with the dog for some time. So rewards definitely do help keep children, on task, especially when it comes to sitting through long lectures or classes online in front of the computer.
Right. So true. That's many of us don't want to accept it, but it's so true. And if we think it over, think it through, and even make our rewards a little innovative, and make try to make it help. I mean, it would help the kids, and what type of shows or what are they watching on TV? If we can, okay, you can watch TV, but this is what you need to watch. If we can, direct them that way, that might also help. Yeah.
Or even
Good
if you have
point.
an older kid, so like a young child who needs to do their online schooling, but also an older child, maybe if you assign the older sibling the task of keeping the child engaged, or something like that. That way, both of them are productively spending their time, and both of them are engaged. That might also be something that parents can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So any other comments from the parents who have joined in? Asim, you have anything, any inputs? Deepa?
Yeah, so I would like to I really like the format, the interactive format, and I appreciate that. And also, Julian, to you for organizing all this.
Thank you, Asim. Thank you for joining in and, giving your feedback as well. So if we don't have any further question, I would like to just thank this wonderful youths who, it's not about how, like, whether we achieved what we came here for, but we tried our best. The youths tried their best. So hopefully it helped somebody. And we hope that you guys join, we all get involved in this. Our way to get involved, your way to get involved is that if you want to be part of this Let Us Talk It Youth series, please email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. You can even connect with me directly, and we can see how it goes. You can be a speaker. If you're a youth, you can be a speaker. If you're a parent, you can be a mentor. We are always reaching out, looking for new ideas. If you have some interesting topics in mind, please do let us know. And as far as Let Us Talk It webinars are concerned, we have professional webinars every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And we have this wonderful webinar, Let Us Talk It Youth series, on Fridays from 12 to 1 p.m. And going through the whole webinar, I like, it's absolutely one's own decision is what I can think or say. So one quote that I remember that I want to share is: the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, the realist adjusts the sails. I think this is what we exactly have to do at this situation, where with the new reality, we have to adjust ourselves, since we know ourselves and our kids and our environment the best. Nobody else. We can have suggestions, we can see each other, but the decision is definitely ours. But what we can do as a community is that we can keep it connected. We can have be compassionate with each other, so that we can we would not think and worry about what we have missed, how far behind we are, but to see that still we have an opportunity to learn online. Still we have the opportunity to have access with school and its and education on a whole. So with that note, we end this session today. Thank you, youths. You did a wonderful job, and wish you a great day ahead. And we see you next Tuesday again at Let Us Talk webinar, for professional webinar from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.